Well, that fucking blows my mind, honestly. I watched the judge fucking evict somebody from their property because of an estate issue. Fucking evicted him and most likely arrested his drug-addled ass. So that's my point. I mean, she had a past due loan. I understand that that's something I couldn't pay back. You just can't tell my boss to pay me. But if the state has a fucking prejudgment, then why does it exist? Do you then tackle the state with constitutional law based on the lower? Fucking ridiculous. I would assume that you still, if it was prejudgment law by that standard, well then she's still entitled to retaliations that still have to happen, but that's basically saying that now you're forcing her to steal the way she did before to do what they did. Because I'm not trying to rationalize that this creditor stopped them from being paid into the system because of a personal loan because of an injury. But if you change the context away from personal injury, but where does constitutional law lie? It doesn't have to do with just humans and malpractice. If a lawn sale has a $10,000 Picasso that went for $10,000 because people broke this fucking system. It'd come up in the mathematics. See, I think, you look at that, you see these people trying to help each other and do this stuff, but it's obviously not helping. It's only hindering to the problem about, well, what would be sensible about the divorce here of who's going to incur what debt and whether they could even survive this point. Well, that's a pretty subjective thing like art. I mean, you're telling me that the damages are this, that, and the other on constitutional law about a debtor. So when a creditor puts into a personal loan issue, do we now have to create a different system again? Because it would absolutely fucking tear down all those states' laws that have a state law that provision sets that. So what is it used for then? What is the specifics of that thing that I have to study so I understand that there's not some sociopath fucking creditor out there that I have to keep for because it's its specific route. I mean, you could probably cite anything, and the more confusing it is because you're on retainer for what does here, or you're trying to save the fucking empire which you work for by whatever means, negligence or malice. I mean, whoa,
Concept. Often when gauge theory is taught, the gauge covariance derivative is listed as one of the primary fundamental ingredients, but that's not necessary. Well, there are ways of approaching the subject matter where you can put more emphasis on the gauge covariance derivative if you want to, but I think the subject matter actually makes a lot more sense if you take a different approach, where you have your matter field and you have your gauge field, and then the gauge covariance derivative is just a pragmatic way of thinking about the interplay between the matter field and the gauge field, vis-a-vis how the concept of a derivative changes from one gauge to another.
Practice the best.
Core power.